right, welcome to Leon Divert, where today I am joined by Essej and Cphi.
Hello. What's up?
I guess go ahead and put all the memes. You know, I'm just gonna slide like a quick flash of all the memes from the direct. I'm running on like 2 hours of sleep right now, so we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna keep this brief. Let's go ahead and deal with the elephant in the room: the prices. What are our thoughts on the prices?
So, the console itself, I kind of get. Although, I personally don't think it's super justifiable because it's not like it's as powerful as some of the consoles with similar price tags. But that's just me. Games-wise, though, I am not happy because Nintendo's just raising the bar again. They're selling them for $80 a piece for the Switch 2, which is just abysmal at this point in this economy. And now we might have to worry about it a little more with what's going on the, other side of things, if you get what I'm saying. Because, what caused the delay?
So yeah, we're definitely going to keep this as politically neutral as we can, of course.
No, of course. That's why I said it that way. I don't want to go too far into things. It's just like with things that's going on, I'm definitely concerned about rises. However, the price tag already is a bit to me.
Yeah.
Basically the same thing he said. I think that if they announced a $399 price, that would have been more in line with a decent price for a console these days, because that's the same price as the PS5. And the PS5 is stronger, but it's not portable. That's the trade-off. Nobody should pay $80 for a Switch game. I'm sorry, it's just insane. Cphi said, that's just raising the bar just way too high.
Right. I think the consoles, I was prepared for 400. I think 450 is just a little steep. The Switch's technology, when it was manufactured and sold to us, was already old tech when it came out.
Yeah.
Whereas, we don't know, how much RAM or I don't know if that's been, put out there in the public yet. We don't know how much RAM, the type of graphics card, the type of CPU on board, right? I do think it is, probably on par somewhere between a PS4 Pro and a PS5, and for it being portable, that is impressive. I don't know if it fully justifies that 450 price, plus, if it ends up going up. Personally, I'm really glad they didn't put pre-orders up day one, because looking back on it, Mario Kart's not the thing that's going to make me buy the console,
Yeah.
So I'm happy that I have this post direct clarity.
Nice.
Where I can reason that maybe that's a bit too steep for me to be immediately investing in. And when I think about $80 games, it's I'm still gonna buy the thing eventually. I'm still gonna buy games for it eventually. It is gonna mostly be a first party machine for me, as someone who has a powerful computer. But for little Timmy out there, to be able to play Elden Ring on a handheld, I maybe I think Elden Ring is a good benchmark for a decent performing machine, I guess.
I could agree.
So if it runs well, especially if they're touting, 4K 60 or 1080, 120 frames, maybe the console price is justifiable. But I don't assume that all third-party games are gonna be trying to hit that $80 mark. But obviously the next big 3D Mario, Mario Kart, the next Zelda, right? They're probably first-party big Nintendo games probably are gonna be $80 moving forward, which I've already said this to Essej, but I intend to still get the console eventually, but it's kind of a case where instead of getting two $60 games every month or every other month or whatever, I'm just gonna buy one $80 game. I'm just gonna be more specific about what I decide to invest in. And that's
more frugal.
yeah, that's kind of my my counter to the argument is just, you gotta try, the games have to be worth $80 and I have to actually get $80 worth of enjoyment out of it. So I'm probably, I might not be as eager for like kind of spin-offy, not main Mario title. Like if another Peach game comes out, I didn't buy the last, the Peach Showtime or whatever. The next Peach game, if it's $80, I might be like, I'm good,
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, especially with the third-party ones, I would hope that they're not going to be sold for that either. Elden Ring, I think is it Elden Ring 60 on Steam?
I'm not sure at the moment, but probably, yeah. And it goes on sale. Steam has sales all the time.
Yeah.
Where it feels like
Seems a
Nintendo.
godsend.
It feels like Nintendo. They're very stingy with their prices,
Yeah,
especially for
Elden Ring
first-party
60.
games.
Elden Ring 60 and the DLCs are 40.
Yeah.
Also, we do know the RAM of the Switch 2, by the way.
What is it?
It's
What is
12.
it?
What was the RAM?
It's 12 gigs.
12? That's not terrible for a handheld console.
For a handheld, that's not bad.
I mean, for a handheld, yeah, that's pretty good. And, considering that it's not running like a whole computer operating system, it's just running the console itself and the games. Yeah, 12 is pretty good.
The handheld battery life is pretty bad, though. Depending on what game you're using, it's like 2 to 6 hours.
Yeah, so you'd imagine something like Elden Ring's probably gonna make it that 2 mark.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in fairness, I think the first Switch had a similar benchmark, right? I think OLEDs are slightly better,
Yeah, they had a bit of a better battery in them.
but overall, I mean, for something that's, for one having a 1080p, I think they said the screen on the console is 120 frames, variable frame rate.
The Switch 1 battery life is 4.5 to 9 hours.
Fair.
But it also doesn't use, as much power.
Yeah. Of course, with it being a more powerful machine, I would expect that people are going to invest more in the power side of things. If you're getting a Switch 2, you're probably also a home gamer. Like it's the hybridity is still there, but I feel like this is definitely like we're getting to PlayStation territory where the price is more about the luxuries of gaming and not just the entertainment value. Because I have a powerful machine, that I can get games cheaper on Steam, right? If I get a Switch 2, when I get a Switch 2, it's going to be a first-party machine. It's going to be for Smash Bros. It's going to be for the Marios, the Zeldas, and the Pokemon.
Yeah, those big titles.
100%.
But that being said, that's, we went ahead and got the negative rant out of the way. We're not excited for the prices. To be honest, I'm happy that I'm not getting it day one. As a YouTuber, I wish I was, but if it's just upgraded Zelda, if it's just Mario Kart, I can't think of a lot of other games that are coming out day one that I can't. I'm excited for Deltarune, but that's, also going to be available on Steam and stuff. Let's go ahead and start going over the Direct real quick and just all the games we saw. We saw a whole lot of Mario Kart.
Dude,
Oh yeah,
the new Mario Kart looks amazing.
will agree. I like the amount of detail that is put into it from what gameplay footage we did see.
Right, I saw a little more in the Nintendo tree houses,
Yeah.
and it
I
does look
think-
pretty swell.
The games that we saw were hidden.
Yeah, like
Some of the things with the console itself, I'm like, like the video or whatever, but the
Like I said,
games were hidden.
yeah, we're about to get into all that, but okay, so I didn't see the cow in my initial reaction to Mario Kart World. The cow does
my
like a
man.
flip after grinding on some rails or something, like, dude. And looking at the poster now, they've got Goombas. They've got like the dudes from Mario Galaxy with like the wings and shit. They got all kinds of shit in here.
Dude, you know
The Pokies.
sand things that stack on top of each
Yeah,
other.
the pokies.
Yeah, those things you can play as those.
Yeah, they got the penguins from just the generic ice levels. Like they got everybody here. This is the Mario Universe equivalent of everyone is here for Mario Kart.
I was just about to make the joke.
And I think it's going to release with like up to 30 stages or 32 stages. Also 24-player online.
And open world exploration.
I wonder if that's going to be like with the voice chat.
Right. Oh God.
Yeah, could you imagine
I don't
24
want a
people
5-year-old screaming in my ear, dude.
24 little Timmies all in one voice chat.
But yeah, the game looks amazing.
Agreed.
All right, let's see what else we got. Okay, this is when they started going into the features, like the chat. I think the chat itself is interesting. I'm happy that the little chat, the Discord bubbles don't stay in focus if you don't want them to. You can still have full screen gameplay with the chat.
Yeah.
I do think
Yeah.
this is specifically to y'all as well. I do think that showing the gameplay is actually, as an option. I think that's awesome when you think about like Soul Link Nuzlockes and stuff like that.
Agreed.
Like that immediately popped in my head. I was like, dude, I could play Pokemon alongside other people and it just goes off,
Yeah. The actual like camera aspect of it all, cool in an idea. However, I feel like it's just going to be another expensive accessory.
I wonder if it's like any webcam will work or you need the Switch specific one.
That's
Right.
what I was about to say.
Well, hold on.
wonder
No,
if
I think I saw that there was going to be Piranha Plant third-party webcams, so never mind that statement.
I wonder if you can use a headset.
Or some
Yeah.
Bluetooth
Or
headphones.
do you have to use the console mic? Because I'll be real, if you're like 5 feet away from that thing, it's not gonna hear you.
Or
It says it's going to, but
it's gonna pick up Essej's grandma in the other room.
It will. She'll be yelling at the cats, and
And then suddenly
you
little
young
Timmy's like,
little
whose
fuckers."
grandma was that? But yeah, I think it's cool that it really acts like Discord in the sense that you can just be playing your own thing. Y'all don't have to be playing a game that's interacting with each other.
yeah.
I think in that sense it's pretty cool. It was laggy AF, but it did not look like it affected your gameplay though.
Right, which I noticed that. That was one of the first things that stood out to me is the screen share definitely looked laggy on the person's end that was screen sharing it. However, your gameplay seemed to stay smooth, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
My whole idea on this is though, how many consoles do we have now that have interactions with Discord?
Right.
Is this their step to see if this console can handle it? And if so, is Discord going to come to the Switch 2 as well, since it already has support for a native chat sequence? That's something that I'm wondering about.
I feel like Nintendo wouldn't allow it, but who knows, right?
Yeah.
yeah, they'd probably do their own version.
Discord.
So let me look at the rest real quick. Okay, they kind of go into some Mario Party stuff. The camera kind of has similar functions to Kinect, where you can
That was
kind
the
of be
thing that
there
I thought, yeah.
interacting with it. I thought that was kind of cool. And then we get into like the specific stuff. So they're like, what do y'all think of game share? Okay, this is one thing. When this came up, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. It's kind of like, back in the day you had a DS, right? Some DS games, you could put it in and then, you could share the experience with someone else who didn't have the game in their DS, right? And it wasn't like the full game or anything. It was like, like mini games or whatever, just like bonus content. But it was still cool.
All I can say to that is PlayStation did that, and Steam does that.
Well, I'm talking about like in real time, like a multiplayer game. Like one person owns it, and then like 3 other people can play Uno, or just. I'm sure it's going to be more than just Uno, but I think it's an interesting concept. That if one person owns, let's say, an $80 game, and it's multiplayer, up to 3 other people can just hop in. That's It doesn't
If they
justify
also
the
buy
$80.
the console, and
Well, I mean, it showed it with regular Switches. It wasn't just the Switch 2.
It's very reminiscent of the DS, I will say that.
Right. And I'll have more to say about that later. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. I think game share is pretty cool. I also think being able to lend a virtual game card to other people for like up to 2 weeks or whatever, I thought that was pretty cool.
it just kind of sucks that the game isn't actually on the game card. It's just the right to download the game,
Yeah, I do agree. Like, this is basically the end of physical media.
I do believe it is.
We are witnessing the end of physical media, unfortunately. I do think it's cool that the Switch 2 is basically the same size as a regular Switch. I do wonder if a Switch 2 can go in a regular Switch dock, or if there's going to be like specific things that are like, hey, you can't do that.
Well, the Switch 2 is bigger, right?
Yeah,
It
and
might
then
not
I think it's the
connect
same
properly.
thinness from front to back, though.
cooling wise too, though, because the dock has the fan stuff built into it too.
I wonder if you, just as an example, put a Switch 2 in a regular Switch dock, maybe it just won't be able to output to 4K. Like, maybe it can still function as one, but just for 1080p.
That would be
I think-
interesting.
Just a
I
thought.
think there's a reason the Switch 2 is backward compatible.
I think we talked enough about, the capabilities as far as, it's 4K 60 frames or 1080p 120 frames. We know that it's going to be some level of high graphical fidelity, hopefully consistent.
Basically standard for these days, yeah.
Storage.
Big deal.
What do we think of storage?
I think it's smart to finally actually put more than 32 gigabytes in a console.
But you also have to think that this is going to be 4K versions of the games that were on the regular Switch.
This is true too.
I am happy to see better storage, but like I said, games are bigger now, so it might not be as impactful as we hope.
What about the Joy-Cons?
I think that that's a very welcome change. It's apparently, controlled by an electromagnetic field, which should hold true to their statements of it's not going to come off unless you hit that release. But I'm scared because I know the original Joy-Cons, right? The slide tracks, they can get wore out over time, and then you have a problem with the Joy-Cons just popping out if you hold the console wrong or something. I'm praying that this fixes that situation.
I've never personally, I don't play handheld as much, but I've never personally had a situation where like I'm just sitting there and like one of the Joy-Cons just slides the heck off. I could probably see that, happening to people who have owned their Switch for a really long time and play it very often in handheld mode.
Yeah, my Switch
I've never
One,
had that
bro.
problem either.
My Switch One, when I was playing it handheld all the time, I developed that issue after a little while.
That's fair.
My problem with my Switch 1 is the drift on the console. I mean, on the Joy-Cons.
I pray to God they fix that issue.
It started developing drift like within a month. And I hated it.
Surprisingly, I think I didn't have drift on my Switch until like 2 or 3 years in, to be honest. But again, I didn't play nearly as much handheld as other people probably did. Most of the time, a good Pro controller fixes that, but again, it's a matter of handheld versus not. And I do think most of the time, a good third-party pair of Joy-Cons isn't bad.
I will say I love my 8-bit controller. 8-bit Dio.
Yeah, the
Sponsor
8-bit dough. Not sponsored.
The mouse Joy-Con.
Oh yeah, the mouse Joy-Con. Okay.
Revolutionary or terrible.
I think it's a cool idea because I saw some people, I think on the Nintendo Treehouse, they were playing Metroid, and they seamlessly switched from like playing right stick to just flipping it onto mouse mode and like using that to aim and stuff. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I wonder how well it would work in like your lap, like on some jeans or something.
The only thing I can say about it is I wish that the sliding part was a little wider so it could stand up by itself, because whenever you use a normal mouse, you just slide it around. You don't
Right.
hold it up,
Right.
physically.
I mean, do we have evidence that it won't just sit there itself?
I mean, try it with a regular Joy-Con.
Yeah, sure. Let me Cphi, do you have any Joy-Con nearby?
I do actually.
Yeah, try to just, glide it around on your mouse pad and tell us how that feels.
I have mine with me.
Yeah, I got mine right here.
It stands up by itself, but it kind of falls over a little bit when you're gliding it around.
Yeah, it does stand. I would hope that the material on the rail is a little different.
Like
I will say
smoother.
that.
Smoother.
Yeah, because this, these, it's a little more of a matte finish to them.
Right,
It kind of grabs the mouse pad a little bit. I don't think that's going to be beneficial. So hopefully it's a different material for it. But other than that, it does stand on its own well. And you can actually sit here and bump it and it'll fix itself. So I could see where it actually would work out.
I don't think that they would release something that isn't, intuitive and just feels good to do. It's very Nintendo for them to kind of polish that a little bit. Yeah, I think the Joy-Con are cool. I wonder if we can use regular mice.
Yeah. I hope we can use a regular mouse.
Then they showed off that tech demo game that they're going to charge you for when it should have been like a Wii Sports tie-in type thing.
Yeah, that should have just been included with the console.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That's definitely an oversight on their part.
I think they're just getting a little greedy on that end of it.
The screen size.
I would definitely say the screen size is a huge step up.
Yeah. I wish it was OLED already, but we're probably going to get an OLED model in the future.
It says, while Nintendo had considered using OLED for the Switch 2, hardware design lead Tetsuya Sasaki said they opted to use LCD due to the advancements in LCD technology, including support for HDR. Its LCD has, it's more advanced now, is the reason they're using that over OLED, basically.
Interesting. Just real brief, I don't know how heavy y'all are into the Switch Zelda games. I've personally beaten Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom on this channel.
The extent of my knowledge is from watching you.
Right.
Go watch that.
I will say those worlds probably look great in 4K.
Oh, absolutely.
I do wonder if those versions add like more textures or more grass or more I don't expect it to actually affect gameplay or like new enemies or anything like that. I think it is just a cosmetic upgrade, which in my opinion doesn't justify me playing through it again.
To that extent, there is a video showing exactly that.
All right.
Side-by-side comparisons of the Switch 2 and the Switch.
I briefly saw it, but my monitor only goes up to 1080p, so I wouldn't be able to make an accurate comparison without being able to view it on the hardware that the Switch 2 is demanding. That's another thing, like casual gamers, I guess, if you're a casual gamer that's, on the PS5 and Xbox side of things, you probably do have a 4K screen. I personally, I'm still rocking 1080p. I don't think that the upgraded ports do a whole lot for me personally. I think the Kirby and the Forgotten Land got like some DLC with their port, their Switch 2 port.
Yeah.
So it really depends on how big of an upgrade we're talking, and it's all about context in that sense. The Switch 2 upgrades were just kind of mid, to be honest.
Watching this video, it definitely looks like an upgrade, but I don't think it would justify me buying the game again or, using the upgrade pass to upgrade from Switch 1 to Switch 2.
Right.
Which we still don't know the price of those.
I'm assuming that I'm assuming it's just going to be a markup. Like if you paid $60 for
like the difference.
Yeah. If you paid $60 for Breath of the Wild, it might cost $20 to make it an $80 game. But Tears of the Kingdom was actually Tears of the Kingdom was actually a $70 game on the Switch.
Yep.
I bought several copies of that game for some reason.
It's insane.
Well, the next thing in the Direct was the Zelda Notes service that's available in the Nintendo Switch app. I actually think that's pretty cool. It's like a little GPS system.
The voice guidance to find shit.
Yeah, it's like a little GPS system for the Zelda games.
I saw a comment on the Direct. It's like, never once did I ever expect them to add GPS to Tears of the Kingdom.
right. And I think that's pretty cool. It briefly made me think about, like, you know, this is what I was circling back to. It makes me think of the DS, you know, like, or the Wii U. Like, the DS and the Wii U had, you know, the dual screen dynamic, right? And it makes me think of you know, your phone can be like this unofficial bottom screen in certain situations, especially with the, you know, Zelda Notes is a big example for that. And, you know, I don't think that that's the direction they're going with it, but it's an interesting thought, in my opinion.
It's what it could become.
Yeah.
Another thing that I wanted to touch on real quick.
Yeah.
The charging port is on the top of the console.
Which is fucking fabulous.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Well, yeah, one on the top and one on the bottom, but like when you're laying in bed and you just want to be relaxing, you don't want to have to plug in the thing on the bottom of the console.
Dude, that drove me crazy so many times.
Or
when I was just
charging in
chilling.
tabletop, right?
Yeah. Like they give you the kickstand, you know, for the Switch,
Yeah.
but then they put the charging port on the bottom, so you can't charge it while you're, you know, you're playing, or like it's sitting on a desk or something.
8 years ago, we were sold on an idea. But yeah, Zelda Notes kind of gave me DS vibes. It would be cool if we saw more games, first party or otherwise, that had this more interactivity. You were also able to like make, you know, like something with like the Zonai parts in Tears of the Kingdom, and then like make that into a
use the
QR
QR
code
code
that you could like share with
share
other
with people.
players. Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
I think that's an interesting concept. It makes me wonder if we're going to see something like that with Pokemon. With the Pokemon Champions game coming out, you know, I think about maybe you could just have a QR code for a team. You know, a lot of people are
make a QR code yourself.
yeah,
On, like,
a lot
the
of
web or something.
well, a lot of people are thinking Champions might be kind of like Showdown, but like official.
I
That'd be
definitely
dope.
think it's gonna go that way. I don't think you're gonna have to like breed Pokemon and then transfer them over, you know?
I mean, I think
Yeah.
I'm hoping that this is like, you know, like we have like the hardcore VGC and, you know, competitive crowd that stay with like classic Pokemon battling through Pokemon Champions, and I hope that Pokemon itself evolves. You see what I did there? As a franchise, and you know, I like that we're seeing, you know, moving battles where we, you know, our
That's
decisions
probably
matter.
Why they chose to make ZA the way they did.
Yeah, I really
and
hope that we see
competitive
more of
to a
that.
different thing.
Especially, you know, I know Cphi, I don't think you're like heavy into Pow World like we are, but we've been playing the hell out of some Pow World, and
That's what I did today.
yeah, I do hope that we see a more action-focused gameplay from Pokemon, as competition is finally lighting a match under their ass, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's what's driving it, is the fact that they officially have competition. That at first, you know, they were talking about they were going to try and sue and all this, that, third, and that's a thing that we could talk about in a whole other video in its own. They quickly realized that they can't sue because they didn't actually truly rip them off.
Power World also changed the what Nintendo wanted to sue them for.
Yeah.
Which was, you know, throwing a spherical thing out to release a creature.
Or capture a creature.
Yeah, or capture or whatever.
So like it made them realize that they actually have competition in the market suddenly, and you know that's why we see such a shift in Legends CA.
I like the daytime, you know, you can capture Pokemon, it's a cutesy interactive thing, and then at nighttime it's like da-dan, 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 freaking battle these dudes. You gotta go from rank Z to rank A. I thought that was cool. They actually explained that. The Z to A is a ranking system for, you know, whatever league or whatever is going on in Lumio City.
The nighttime kind of reminded me of the space-time warps that you get in Legends Arceus.
At night, the French come for your behind.
Oh no! Oh yeah, another thing I wanted to touch on. I think the reason that they're moving the base games from competitive is the hacking of Pokemon.
Which has gotten bad.
Yeah.
You know, you can't even go online without running into hackers, you know?
Yeah, I think just taking competition out of the core Pokemon brand, as far as, you know, obviously the regular games can still have a competitive nature to them, but it shouldn't be like the driving force of the storytelling. At least not all the time.
I still think the game should be a little bit more difficult and not as hand-holdy as they have been.
It should
recently.
be optional.
Yeah, that too. There should be a slider.
Okay, so the next thing in the direct was the wheelchair basketball game.
Is this Rocket League?
I was about to say I didn't expect it.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't on my bingo card. It is nice to see inclusivity.
Yeah, it looks okay. I definitely see people like, especially Rocket League fans, giving it a try.
Right. Because it could be good. It is an official Nintendo IP, so what is their Smash moveset going to be?
They're just going to
That's a good question.
I think we're going to be, you know, like a spike could be like, you know, they're coming in with the dunk, right?
It's just Mario all over again. Just give him Mario's moveset.
Dude, it just...
The down air is a
just
spin
put
in
Mario in a wheelchair, and that's the...
Just break his legs.
Oh my
Put him in
god.
the wheelchair. Don't put that in the boot.
Oh god, it's going in the video. I mean, for real, it's an interesting concept. It's different. You know, I'm not like a huge basketball guy or whatever, but I think it's pretty cool. They showed off Tony Hawk, and there was like a little section where you went to Bikini Bottom.
Yeah, I saw that. People are going crazy. I wonder if you're going to be able to play as SpongeBob.
Dude, that would be insane, dude. Hyrule Warriors: Age of Imprisonment. All right, I got to talk about this real quick. Breath of the Wild had a companion game, Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity. That game ran like ass on the regular Switch, dude. Total butt cheeks, booty cheeks, very bad.
Cheeks.
The rendering, the frame rate, it was just all so bad. And I wanted to like it because it was kind of an alternate, you know, story. You know, it was like a split off universe where something else happened, and I wanted to see what happened, but I've never actually fully played through the game because it just ran like such hot garbage, dude. I guess I'm hoping that because they're showing off Age of Imprisonment, I'm hoping that they don't run like hot garbage on the Switch 2. I'm hoping that the Switch 2 can actually render all that shit and keep it on there and keep the frame rate good. And I might actually play through the games and enjoy them. Because I am a huge Zelda fan. I like Zelda lore. I like alternate timelines. And I think the Hyrule Warriors games are a good way to tell those types of stories without impeding on the main Zelda timeline. Oh, the big reveal, the GameCube on Switch Online. Yeah, I thought GameCube coming was pretty freaking awesome. You know, that I loved Wind Waker. They better fix online, you know, their net code if they're going to be charging any more than I'm already paying for the damn family plan. You know what I mean?
If they ever release it to the United States.
But yeah, the GameCube coming is pretty cool. I think the wireless official GameCube controller is going to be a hit. I want like 10 of them.
Facts. Me too.
Next, they showed off more third-party stuff. Guys, I am so excited for Deltarune, all right? I eat this shit up. You know, I follow all the YouTubers, and I just, you know, I haven't actually played it. You know, I've covered several songs from the series over on my music channel. And I actually found out today that it's gonna be like you pay for it one time. So right now we're just getting chapters 3 and 4. I think it goes up to 7 chapters. I found out today that it's gonna be $25 for just the whole game as it, you know, updates over time. So I'm pretty excited for that.
The only experience with Deltarune I have is the time that you made me play it.
I was gonna say I've never
Which I still need
actually
to play it. It was fun.
I've never actually played Undertale or Deltarune, but I will be playing it on the live stream, at least Deltarune soon on the live streams, just in preparation for chapters 3 and 4. Yeah, most of this third-party stuff is going to be like stuff for Steam, and then somewhere in all that third-party stuff, the stream froze, And I just think a bunch of Deltarune fans were probably just going off in the chat and it just froze the stream or whatever. That's my head.
No, yeah. Like the comment section went ballistic when Deltarune was announced, dude.
Dude, yeah. So that's my
Like-
headcanon.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what happened.
Okay, what did we think of the unofficial Bloodborne 2?
I think it was pretty interesting to see.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
The Dusk Bloods, dude.
Oh yeah.
I loved Bloodborne, dude. I've only beaten like one Souls-like, and it was like another crab's treasure. You know, like it was like an underwater cute little baby's
that's like-
first Souls-like.
Baby's first Dark Souls.
But it was fun, and I have played Elden Ring and Bloodborne, and I do enjoy those types of games. I'm just not that great at them.
Same.
Honestly, that's probably what'll make it entertaining. It's just me fucking around until I finally find out. I think Kirby Air Rider or Air Riders, you know, the Kirby Air Ride sequel, I thought that looked really cool. It's nice to know what Masahiro Sakurai was working on, you know? As a huge Smash fan, it's nice to see that he's getting a break from it to, you know, work on something that he's passionate about.
And then we get to the biggest reveal of them all.
Da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Donkey Kong.
Donkey
Donkey
Kong
Kong.
Bonanza.
man.
Dude, I'm going Bonanza just thinking about it.
Agreed.
I might go punch an alligator later.
Take me with you.
Wait, is K. Rool an alligator or a crocodile?
Crocodile.
I'm gonna go get Steve Irwin's son, and me and him are gonna join up with Donkey Kong and beat the shit out of a real crocodile.
You got to get that fat dude that was fighting a crocodile over the pizza.
Yeah,
my
we'll
God.
he's invited too. But yeah, the new Donkey Kong looks sick. Overall, a pretty good direct. Very disappointed by the whole price situation. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. All right. Well, Cphi, it was nice having you here. Essej, it was nice having you here. Y'all have a good night. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see y'all next time.
Yes, sir.
See you, man.
Y'all take care.